to the end of what
Okay,
you
that's
wrote.
great.
And
All
that'll
right.
we'll start clarifying that, and then we'll see where we may have holes and gaps, and just continue to get it more and more organized in anticipation of submitting it here in a few weeks, I hope. And
Okay.
and also what I'd like to do at the end of this, I'd like to I intend to send it to everybody else, so that when before they'll have a chance to read it before we meet Thursday coming up next. All right.
Did you want to send it with the edits that our team puts together today before you send it out?
I do.
Include the edits that we have
Yes,
today?
Are you going to type those in? Are you in
Yeah,
the
I'll
spot
type
to
them
do
in.
that? Okay, good.
Yeah, and
All right.
if Chris has got some written comments, just send them over to
Okay.
us.
I
But
do.
I want to hear what she has to say as well.
Okay.
My strategy, we received a lot of paper initially from the city about a preliminary ordinance, preliminary language, and that type of thing. So my strategy was to go through all of those pieces of paper, the handout, Margot, that you had provided, and start picking up, and the goals that the lawyer had written, Chris, when we started out. So that was my strategy on compiling this list, was to literally go in and do check marks on every key point. And the comment from the lawyer was, we're not to write the ordinance.
Right.
But I have found in my experience to give some background, but it's very, very helpful if we write statements that can be Frankenstein cobbled together to make a good ordinance that reflects what this board has come together.
Okay.
So do you have any questions about how I started working on the document?
No, well, were you able to do all that? It seemed like my goals were the same this last week, but I didn't do it. I mean, all I did was rely on your document, and that's what I've read this week. There's a lot of other input, and I have not gone back through and combed in detail to make sure that we have everything that I've read.
Well, I'm kind of nerdy like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just a techno nerd, so I enjoyed it. So.
Oh, really cool. Good. Well, that's a good thing. Honestly, I think now, just to make it clear in my mind, the front page, the first of them, the background that you wrote, and then the objectives, that was, I didn't see that in any other location. That's something that you came up with, correct?
Right. And the reason why I wrote the background and the objectives is when we throw this over the fence to the city, to whomever their technical writers are, or the council people or whatever, I thought it was important that we establish a background. And a lot of this background was from what we've heard, then what this was about, and then what our objectives were. Because our objective, and I told Marco, we could write the ordinance, but our objective was to just set out a menu. I called it a menu of statements.
Yeah.
And what I found was, if you turn to page 2 on the table of contents, that's the categories of topics that, and where they place these statements, that's up to the city. But these were the different categories of various topics that I gleaned and that I've understood. And I believe, based on Margot's comprehensive list, that these statements should fall under. And so I started out, and let's turn to page 3 with terms and definitions. I believe Chris mentioned there's actually 3 chapters in the city code, for the lack of a better word, that I believe this information will fall into. And Chris mentioned it last week, which was chapter 52 of the city, which is definitions, terms and definitions. From the paperwork I saw from the city is chapter 34, which is the new category of license. That's where you would go in, and if you're going to have a veterinarian, they would go up to chapter 34 and look under veterinarians or beauty shops or whatever. So then chapter 34 will be edited and amended to include a brand new license category for short-term rentals. And then chapter 64, from my understanding of just reading documents,
Mhm.
is actually going to be the ordinance for short-term rentals, which I believe includes zoning. If y'all see any errors with that, we'll correct that. But I got the impression there's 3 separate hide and seek areas within the city's mammoth amount of information that any clerk, city clerk would go to if they're trying to find out everything that's needed to license a short-term rental.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. What I would like to propose, and then the city can do however they want to. What I would like to propose is that, well, we recommend that a separate chapter for short-term rentals be considered. And the reason is, for people who are getting into the short-term rental business, it's nice to be able to go and directly to the chapter that refers to the business that they're trying to create or get into. And therefore, and then from there, that would reference the appropriate areas in chapters 34, 64, 52, what have you. Again, as I in the last meeting, as the example I used was that one for Orange Beach. That's the way they've got a separate chapter just for short-term rentals that one can go to, and then and other definitions that they pull or refer to for other areas would be you can be referred to from there. And the reason I brought that up was it was as this in this homeowners association that I'm a part of, it was always a pain to find out what the ordinances are or were for maintenance of homes, whether it be the length of the grass or the structure or the position of fences and all that stuff. It was very difficult. There's about 3 or 4 different, like this is 3 or 4 are going to be, if we don't do something different, 3 or 4 different places in the code you had to go to find out how you should operate, how you run your subdivision. And then the city pulled them out and put it all in one location, and it made it much clearer for the people who live here and for those who try and enforce the rules. So that's what I recommend. Now, whether they do that.
So now let me get clear. So you have recommended that one chapter for homeowners association, and the city actually pulled out and did a separate chapter for homeowners association?
No, it's for residential. I can't think of it, but it's for residential standards for
Okay.
that's the way that's what it is. It's for how houses are maintained, and noise ordinances and all that stuff are all captured.
So it's all consolidated.
Yeah, that's right. Just makes it a lot easier for folks who are really trying to determine how best to how a subdivision should behave, in other words.
Yeah, okay. So actually, we could shift a lot of things down and do like a point 1.0 would actually be one standard recommendation would be to encapsulate all of these terms, definitions, policies, and processes into one standalone chapter, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's right. Exactly right. It would be
Great idea.
much more functional. Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay, so then our number system will shift, and first thing out of the box would be 1.0 would be a separate standalone chapter that encompasses all the requirements for short-term rental.
Yeah, actually, I think the numbers will probably stay the same, don't you, Alita? I mean, they're going to start off that whatever chapter they put it under is going to have to start with 1.0 and go through however many necessary.
No, these are just number references for topics.
Yeah.
And I think the first topic would be a standalone chapter for short-term rentals. You see?
Oh, okay. All right.
That would include terms and definitions, licensing requirements, zoning districts, because that's really what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah.
However, if they throw that.
Oh, you just went blank. Well, you can't hear you right this minute, Alita. Just this last sentence.
My kids must be running this program.
Okay. There you go.
actually 1.01, the standard chapter that you're recommending, the suggestion is encompass all of this laundry list of terms and definitions and topics into one concise chapter for short-term rentals.
Yes, ma'am.
However, if they don't,
Yeah.
this is what we need to break it out in
Yes.
chapters 52, 34, and 64.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and I think also, and I'm not entirely sure, but I think also probably there's going to have to be changes in chapters 34, 64, 52. You know what I mean? Just
Oh, they're all going to be amended because I read what they sent initially, and it was all these things about, here we hereby go and amend everything to include. So, and then there's a lot of category codes. I saw 72100. So it's a lot of different categories. So I think they've got placeholders already built in to accommodate any kind of new amendments and new licenses. But we'll let them wash those.
Yeah, they'll certainly sift through that. It's just it's part matter of.
Well, we're just going to set. Okay, so that's a good. You agree with that, Margot?
Yeah, I'm good. I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's go in and nickel and dime all of this on page 3, 1 point terms and definitions. I did look into the terms and definitions on the Gulf Shores Orange Beach website.
Yep.
And began to see how they had theirs written. But then I'm a firm believer that we can write our own because I saw some of the definitions that the city had, and they're okay, but they don't understand the language of the short-term rental industry.
Yeah. Okay.
Entire houses, whole homes, this type of thing.
Okay.
So instead of me going through every one of these, have y'all had a chance to look at like 1.0? Is there any corrections there or clarifications?
I saw nothing there myself, Alita. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
I didn't have anything down till 1.3 bedroom.
Okay. Now, Margot, do you have anything at 1.1, 1.2?
No, same as Earl, I have a couple questions on 1.3.
Okay, let's talk 1.3. Now, where this information came from was I just pulled it right out of the Orange Beach document. Right. Okay. So, but I'm gonna tell you, Orange Beach is fine, but I have run up against them years ago on another city ordinance, and they were flat out wrong. So they may be flat out wrong here too. So let's look at 1.3, okay?
All right. Well, first off, the sentence got in there twice, the bedroom, so that's just a little.
Okay, so that,
thing.
Okay. I'm gonna strike the first line.
So all of these minimum square footage, et cetera, all came from Orange Beach, huh? That's what my first question was, where would this come from? I wonder if all this is necessary. There is a desire to keep things as simple as possible. If we just say bedroom, is it going to be important for us to designate the square footage and the height of the ceiling and all that stuff?
From what I saw when I was on the Airbnb and the Verbo, whatever it's called, website, people do rent out a standalone bedroom, and it's called a bedroom or bedroom suite. Right. A bedroom has just a shared bathroom within the same house, or a bedroom suite has a master bedroom with a standalone bathroom. If the short-term rental folks really do have a bedroom, maybe it should have some minimum requirements. I mean, that's the thought process of that. You don't want to put everybody in a closet. There should be some minimum requirements for heating, air conditioning, smoke detector, that type of thing. Margot, do you have any comments?
The only thing I would say is there might be some homeowners specifically in the historic districts that would have some heartburn, because I know there are some bedrooms and some rooms in different homes that are pretty small, and ceiling height. I think some of those folks would have some heartburn on it. Now, that being said, where you say, see, the two means of egress, a door and a window, I think that from a safety perspective, I think that is, that's totally legitimate. I mean, in a realtor's terminology, I think most bedrooms are, a room is considered a bedroom if it has a closet and a window.
Correct.
And I just think that if we start putting in square footage and ceiling heights and windows and all this other stuff, that could give some of the homeowners some heartburn. And again, that's my personal opinion.
Me too.
So if we struck item number A, strike that. Minimum park footage at least 7 feet.
Hello, everyone. Chris is here too, by the way.
Oh,
Hey.
welcome, man.
Hey.
Very good.
No camera, but I'm listening in. And
Okay.
I think that this would be like really not just heartburn causing, but no way to really manage or enforce it. And it's going to be up to the person who wants to do this rental to certify or, prove or, say, yes, that's a bedroom. But I agree with Margot from the real estate point of view that normally that means it's a room with a bed and a closet. And even windows. I mean, a lot of times there are rooms within a home that don't have a window. So that may be perfectly good for doing a rental. So that one is one I think is like way too much. Just needs to be a definition of a bedroom that is a habitable room within a dwelling. And,
so in other words, keep 1.3, but just keep the first sentence.
That's what I think. Simple and to the point, because we get to heating and air and smoke detector. That's all under health and safety. It's another place without having to say it there.
But I do think egress is important, because if you're renting a room with only one exit and classified as a bedroom, that doesn't even meet code.
So then that comes under code. I mean, I don't know about.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep flipping through. Okay, and that's why you have liability insurance,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So keep it simple. One definition: somewhere with a bed that you can sleep.
Right. The only thing is, and I know that Chris, you mentioned it earlier, but I would, for a definition for renting a bedroom, I would emphasize keeping letter G, a smoke detector in the room.
Okay.
As another, I mean, a homeowner could interpret like, I only need one smoke detector and it's in the kitchen of the home.
Gotcha. If it's a rental, and I agree with that, and it could be part of the definition that the bedroom must include. It's a bed, a place that you can sleep, and must include a smoke detector. That one's easy enough to cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a bedroom means an individual habitable room within a dwelling that meets that has a bed and a smoke detector.
That's what I'd say. That should take care of it. A bed and a smoke detector.
That's a step above a prison.
I mean, I have issue with the smoke detector, honestly. I mean, I guess
it's in the hallway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you get it out in the middle of the hall. I mean, I think that's what's required, is that the one be in the hallway where it's can be heard by all,
when we built our house in 2008 down at the Bay, a smoke detector was required for all bedrooms. But that was new construction in 2008.
That's probably in Orange Beach, though.
No, that was down at Poor Man's Eating down in Codeine.
I got you.
So again, it comes back to code, and it could be. It could say exactly that: a habitable room with a bed and that code compliant. Right.
Okay, good. That
takes care of the definition.
Yep.
Yeah. And liability insurance. Okay. All right. Now as we move on, Chris, we're glad you joined us too.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're on 1.4. We're on page 3, 1.4. I'm not going to read them all. If we have any comments on 1.4.
Well, I think we've got it in here 2 or 3 times. That's my only concern. You know what I mean? Trying to calculate how many people were allowed. So somewhere we need to consolidate. 6.1 mentions it. What else? Where else do we have that?
Let's
So-
keep it at 6.1 and strike it at 1.4, because you know, that was one I picked up. Yeah, okay, let's just strike 1.4, because
Okay.
6.1 takes care of it, okay?
That's
Sarah?
good. Yep.
Okay, 1.5. Now, see, I had a problem with the way the city wrote some of their definitions when we got that initial paperwork.
Okay.
So I said it's owner occupied, boom, not owner occupied, boom. To me, that's just clear English.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so I had no problems with 1.5. 1.6, I do, the auxiliary dwelling unit. I think we need to address that.
No, should we, auxiliary is an individual or corporate owned, may be considered a not owner occupied lodging rented to a transient occupant. That's really, might almost take its own definition.
Well, I think if it is, it will not soon be, because according to the new UDC, then it's what do they call it? An accessory to the place where it's built, which means that could an owner occupied dwelling. In fact, an accessory dwelling unit can actually be attached to the house. You know, there's not necessarily a separate building. So it would essentially be owner occupied in that case. And I think as an accessory to the house, even if it wasn't owner occupied, if it was a little grandma cottage in the back, I think it's allowed by the code, or will be under the new UDC, and therefore it wouldn't be considered a non-owner occupied. And
I thought the UBC added the auxiliary dwelling unit.
yes.
Chris? you speak?
Yes, that is correct that they added it. Up to this point, you know, mother-in-law suite or a garage apartment or any of those
Pool
things.
house.
Yes, all those things really were not, you know, not for living, okay, or for, you know, even if it was the same family. But
Mhm.
they have definitely put the wording in to the new UDC that includes auxiliary dwelling unit, that in R1, I think they have to be family is the way it's worded. But you know, of course, everybody's grandfathered in if they have garage apartments or, you know, the other, and they can be attached or detached.
Uh-huh.
So it's a good thing. And this was one that the 1.5 and 1.6 in the ADU had me questioning as well, because to me, if it is an owner occupied property dwelling,
Mhm.
no matter what they're renting, if it's one bedroom, if it's the pool house, if it's, you know, and or they live in the pool house and they want to rent out the whole house.
Yeah,
To
that's the
me,
beauty of it.
yes, to me that you know, that there really shouldn't be a separate designation to me because of how the new code is written.
Yeah.
That a R1 does allow it. It says specifically supposed to be the same family, so that you're not doing this kind of rental.
I didn't
Okay.
see this. I didn't see the same family thing. I was reading it today. I didn't see the
I
same
didn't
family
see that.
requirement.
It was in the list of
Chapter 3 something, or unit 3,
it
whatever.
was in the table. Remember you copied the few lines of the table about lodging,
Yeah.
and I want to say that that's where I saw it, and I could be
Uh-huh.
wrong, that might not be exactly where it was,
Yeah.
but I
Huh.
remember reading something about the
Yeah.
R1 and
So, but I think it's covered, and therefore should
yes,
be allowed. Essentially, what I should say. 'Cause
and
again, it
that's
can-
that's where I feel about it, is that if the property owner lives there
Yep.
and wants to rent whatever they want to rent, it's owner occupied, whether they live in the ADU or not.
Yeah,
Not owner means they own the
They-
property, but they don't live there.
they're not there.
It's
Correct.
rental. Yeah.
Right. I agree.
So
Okay, I'm confused. So is 1.5 stay in our list as
Yes.
written?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I surely do.
Does
And
1.5 need to include language about the auxiliary dwelling unit?
now that's a good question. I don't have an answer to that. An auxiliary dwelling unit is individually corporate. I don't know the answer to that one, Alita. I'm pretty sure it needs to be stricken from 1.6, and I think 1.6 is fine without that one sentence.
Let's put it up in 1.4 and have a standalone statement.
Or if it was listed as the auxiliary dwelling unit. I'm trying to think of the way to say it, because that's similar to what it says in an R1. Because it's basically all, it's all the property owners' possible
It's not-
dwelling
Yeah.
dwelling locations.
What I tell
But
you
he's
what,
not gonna occupy both the house and the,
let's
auxiliary.
what do you say we just grab
move
that
it.
one, set it off to the side and move on, and then we'll between now and Thursday next week, we'll see if all of us will look at it and determine
Yep.
where best to put that in.
Well, I'm gonna make, since we struck 1.4, I'm gonna take auxiliary dwelling unit, move it up to 1.4 and have a standalone statement on it.
Okay.
Because if we're having this debate,
Yep.
I don't want the city to have the debate. Okay, any comments on?
Alita, one second
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
I think that we need to add, and I don't know where it is, when you talk,
Okay,
when we talk about owner occupied,
yes,
if you could, we could put in verbiage that says the principal residence of the owner. I think that's,
well, and when you go up to 2.0 in the application, the principal, the homestead exemption is the critical word there when you're looking at tax records.
Right.
So the individual with a homestead exemption, that in essence say it's the principal owner. Well,
okay.
not necessarily, because you could have I don't want to get too complicated, but you could have a life estate. I could own a home and then give my kids a life estate in it. My name would be on the deed, on everything, and they'd have a life estate. It'd have to be the individual with homestead exemption.
Okay. And then I think, and maybe they're on the city stuff that they sent out, they're referencing the housing board. So I don't know how that would fit into this. And that's probably something for the attorneys and the folks at the city to kind of maybe weed through, but we might want to put a little asterisk on that as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure that any housing board properties would ever be eligible for this. And I'm just saying that because housing board, you're talking about
Is that
fairly,
Section 8 housing?
yes, federally subsidized or, funded or whatever. So
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I think you're absolutely right on that, but the city had included some information,
right. That was on the long-term rental one.
okay, they get confused, okay.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
the other, that was the other ordinance. I'm pretty sure that was on
Okay.
that other ordinance. And that was because saying that they didn't have to get a license. And for
Okay.
that reason, that they come under federal or state or whatever. I think it's feds.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think saying principal residence, it wouldn't be a bad keywords to put right there, and owner occupied either.
Okay, principal residence.
Residents. Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean,
Okay.
homestead exemption says the same. That's fine. Or you're kind of redundant, but that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
It won't hurt anything.
We'll make the point.
Yep.
All right, from 1.7, any comments? I'm just gonna let y'all just talk.
The host, yeah, I had a question about owns, the word owns, the host, the individual or corporate entity that operates the SDR, correct?
No, the host is from what I've read on those sites, it's the owner. The manager, the host.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got the impression the host was the owner.
Typically it is, and sometimes it's owner managed, and sometimes they want to say, to their nephew who doesn't have a job, manage the house, and then they designate it as or niece.
Yeah, but that's exactly the situation I'm wondering about, though, because you could have, one manager could be managing a number of houses and only own one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we still have to define, because
Yeah.
those websites talk about a host, they talk about an owner, they talk about a guest.
And I just assumed in my mind that was the person who was running or managing the property, not necessarily the one that owned it. That's why I bring it up. Yeah.
Well, I was just pulling definitions from those websites that they use.
We also have authorized agent. So to me, authorized agent, manager, same, host, that one is,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Chris, meaning I think authorized agent and manager, we can consolidate those two, 1, 2 and 110. But I don't know what the host actually is then. Obviously I'm in the dark in terms. So I guess we
It's
just
more
need
of
to-
it, Earl, if it helps you, I think it's more of an industry term. I think it stems from Airbnb or VRBO.
Yeah,
It's just, they're referred to as hosts. It's like a polite word of the owner or,
so
manager
should we
or
join
whomever.
those two together? 1.7, 1.9, host/owner.
yes, you can do that.
Really?
Oh.
Okay.
Because that covers both of the terminologies in one.
Okay.
Okay,
well,
and then consolidate
2,
1.10 and 1.2 together, right?
yeah.
that too, correct.
And I think that way we make it clear that these two sound the same and let's just use the same definition.
Good idea.
Okay, all right. 1.11, short-term rental.
Well, what about guests though? Let's do it. An invitee of a renter who does not rent the STR. What's
Yeah, now I picked that up on Orange Beach website because
Is
the
that right?
guest is
a renter?
just that. They're not the renter. If you rent it and you invite all my crew over, I'm your guest. So
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. I thought anybody who rented, you had the host who owns the building, and the guests were the people that
no,
renting it for the weekend. You know what I mean? And they're coming by.
the applicant means the person who rents it. See, all these are tricky words.
Yeah.
And we all speak English, but it's interpreted differently.
Well, okay. So what by including them, are we muddying the waters or are we clarifying it? I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I think by consolidating host
Yeah.
and owner,
correct.
that if we add guest/renter, that we can say the renter signed the contract and is a guest of the owner. I mean, they're a guest also.
Yeah.
And any additional occupants, any additional occupants. So
Okay.
that way we make them be guests.
All right. Yeah, that's more
So
along than I
now,
understand.
guest/renter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, good. Yeah, because that's the way I understand it. Host and guests, then would be in the Airbnb side, and then the actual owners and managers are the kind of more official titles, I think.
Okay. Now we're down to the definition of short-term rental.
All right. Any better house, condominium, apartment, or auxiliary dwelling unit offered to the public?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, 1.12. Now, see, I have an issue with 1.12, and it was really spurred on by Chris when the guy wanted to change his use of his residence and put a trailer up there for a used car lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and actually looked at the definition for manufactured home, and the key is it has a chassis, it's registered and licensed with the License Commission.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. Because there's a lot of manufactured homes. Mitchell Homes was a manufactured home. They build everything in Pritchard and then bring it to the website, the concrete slab, and build up on it.
Uh-huh. So why do you think we need to put that in there at all?
Because when the city sent all their documents over, they mentioned something about excluding manufactured homes. So I thought,
I saw that in there. I didn't.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
They can always take it out. I'm in favor of it.
I'm in favor of it too, because that would be something that, I own that lot over there and I can't do a car lot, but maybe I could put 3 trailers on there and do Airbnb.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, it seemed like the zoning would take care of all this, and it wouldn't necessarily need to be in our short-term rental.
Yeah, but they could take it out if they wanted to. Because I'm gonna tell you that if that lady, Miss Chloe, said there was debate on what consecutive meant,
Yep.
consecutive days,
Yeah.
there might be an issue with putting up homesteads on vacant lots that nobody can do anything with. They can take
But-
it out if they want it.
They can take it out, but I say, let's leave it in, that they don't
Yeah.
qualify. I mean, it
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense. I
Right.
never did find the ordinance that says no trailers in the city, but I have always assumed that that is a case, a ordinance, but one day I'll get time to look at that.
Yeah, and I had more of an issue with, okay, manufactured home built in the, manufactured homes, as Alita referred to a minute ago, seemed to have a broader definition than it did probably 40 years ago, where, it looked like something you go on a vacation with, but a little bit longer. And this is now, as they have a different connotation in my mind, manufactured homes. So I don't know. I guess
No,
I'm
manufactured homes that I'm speaking of that we should not allow is built on permanently attached to a chassis, registered and licensed with the Mobile County. It's a car tag.
Right. I just don't feel like the intention of the short-term rental ordinance is to zone for what type of dwelling are on people's property.
Yeah, but let's keep it in just for the fun of it. They can take it out. It's just electrons, Earl.
Yeah.
Very good. Let's move on.
Okay, I left 13 and 14. Anybody got any ideas? Fill in the blanks, or
Not yet.
did we miss anything?
Hope not. More research is required on my part, as I mentioned earlier. Now that we've got a basic organization starting, now I can go back and reread all or much of the information that we received before and plug it in appropriately. So please leave the blanks there, because I might come up with something along the way.
Okay, this is a real catch-all 2.0, the STR business license application requirements and owner responsibility. This is like catching confetti, so let's just jump in. The reason why 2.0, I put the intent in there, because I wanted the readers, whoever we give this to understand. So y'all look at these intent statements as well. The following statements could be used in Chapter 34 of the Mobile Code with regards to establishing business license application requirement. If y'all want to add more language on this intent, let me know.
Okay.
To make it clear on what our objectives are in this paragraph. I mean, this table.
I didn't have any issue with it, Alita. I think it's fine.
Okay, we can always go back. 2.1. I didn't
numbers,
like.
Excuse me, my numbers are different, I guess. I have 2.1 on, mine starts with 2.1, the paragraph you're talking about, but.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I added that later. 2.0 was the intent.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right.
2.1, does it start with each STR property is to be licensed? Is that what you have?
2.2 is what the way mine's numbered.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. I'm with you.
Well, if y'all have different numbering, I apologize. So y'all can lead the numbering drill on that.
Go ahead.
I didn't like the way the city initially described requirements, documentation to show if you own the property. They want checking accounts and all that, which means nothing. Real property is looked at the tax record level. Do you have a homestead exemption? Do you not have a homestead exemption? If you're buying these as LLCs, you need a business privilege tax return. You need corporate operating agreements, federal ID number, proof of liability insurance. We debated that last time. So there's certain legitimate things you can show that I own this house or my corporation owns this house. Checking accounts mean nothing to prove ownership.
Yeah, okay, right. The only issue I had initially is just the two first bullets: real property tax record indicating name with homestead exemption or without it. I mean, all we really need to know is the document that shows proof of ownership is the real property tax record indicating the homeowner's name.
Well, homeowner exemption goes back to that definition, owner occupied.
Yep.
And without homestead exemption goes back to not owner occupied or owned by an LLC.
But there's only one of those type documents associated with the property, right? So it's going to say it's either going to have the homestead exemption or not,
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're suggesting document. So a real property tax record is the document you're suggesting.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
So it's,
So just scratch out one of these and just say real property tax record intersetting owner's name.
That's it.
Right. And
Owner.
that's even, you can even take out the line about the name of the corporate entity. If the
Yes.
if the property tax records says a corporate entity, then
Oh, yeah.
tax record says it.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So really, we're just down to one of those real property bullets.
Yes.
Right.
Real property tax rate indicating the owner's name.
Mhm.
Right.
And take out with homestead exemption or without, just
Right.
homeowner's name.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
You could do a if property is owned by a corporate entity, these may also be used for the following things: the business privilege tax, which means they're authorized to do business in the state, and the federal tax ID.
Okay, you could say the following are suggested documents show proof of ownership of an individual or a corporation of an STR.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, the point is those 3 bullets in a row are just apply to corporations, so.
Yeah, the state business tax, a corporate operating group, yeah. But they're still better than a checking account and savings account number.
That's the truth. And then my other question, Alita, was the last bullet was the proof of liability insurance either through, and I didn't know what XXXX was.
I didn't either, because we've debated that last week about Airbnb has liability insurance. I don't know if liability insurance is required. And that's when I did. Anytime you see XXX or blah, 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 y'all need to step in.
Okay. All right. I got you.
And I think for liability insurance, I think you can just leave it very blanket, a proof of liability insurance. And it's up to the owner if they're getting their insurance through Airbnb, Booking.com, any of the, whatever entity that you're using to market your home. If they have a program for you, then you can show that.
Right.
Okay, good. All right.
I thought of one more, even your driver's license, for like a, say I was going to rent out a room, just at my home, a driver's license with my home address, which is also the address I'm trying to get the license for. Okay, so I think a driver's license would also be should qualify as proof of ownership.
Okay.
Well, does it though, Chris? I mean, you can have a renter. You can have a renter living there, right?
Well, you're supposed to. I mean, your driver's license is supposed to be your home address so that they know where you vote.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's where I was going with that. As an individual person, who might be, because
let's just throw it in there and then let whoever is with the city
decide if they want to take it in or out.
Yeah.
Or just put a state issued identification card.
Oh, there
State
you go.
issue. Okay.
But aren't we we're talking about proof for a person who's trying to get a business license for this home, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
just because their address is there doesn't mean they have authorization to rent the place out,
That's true.
And I don't know that we have any other way to ensure that this person has the authorization to rent this piece of property.
Yeah, you do too. The property tax record. If the property tax.
I know. But I mean, if all we say, if we put that driver's license in there all by itself and somebody comes in with a driver's license, we got no proof that this person has authorization to get a permit to rent this, to sublet this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the property tax record should indicate the same as the driver's license.
Name and address. Yeah. As that's where I was going, a corroborating, because if you say it's corporate and you want some additional information for the corporation, then you probably would want a little bit of additional information from the person. Because I could go print a property tax thing, and do an application on Alita's house.
Yeah, well, and that probably has happened too. Because if they're taking, okay, let's just throw it in there and I'll kind of group those together about property tax, driver's license number, and then they'll see that the other stuff goes to corporations.
Okay, yeah, as long as, again, my concern is that just, I don't want driver's license to be the only thing that allows this person to get a permit,
Right.
No, they can't, because they got to have the property tax for sure.
Okay, yeah, we need to make that clear then, because if we just bullet put a bulletize it all the same, it sounds like all you need to do is come in with one of these, one of the above.
Okay, so the following, instead of suggested, so the following items are necessary.
Mhm.
Necessary to show proof of ownership.
Yes, I think that's correct. Yeah, that's appropriate.
Okay. I don't know what number we're on, but it's, I think it's like
2-2.
Before we leave proof of liability insurance, I want to make sure that gets captured. You know, here it's just for proof of your ownership, if you will, of the property. But later on, we need to put that where somebody's going to sign the affidavit saying, I've got all the necessary safety requirements for renting this property. I think proof of liability insurance needs to be mentioned there again, I believe, you know.
yeah, it's somewhere in 2 though. Let's just keep going. Put your finger there, make a note, and then
Okay, that's good.
each SDR property owner has 120 days to apply for business. We talked about that.
Yes, I wanted to add to that something to the effect that 120 days for all changes to the ordinance. Give people a chance, whatever in the future, the ordinance gets changed, that they have a period of time, and 120 I just pulled out because that was the number is there. They have a period of time, the managers of this property, to get things taken care of before, without a business interruption, as Miss Chloe called it. You know what I mean? So,
Well, you know, we asked for a 5-year sunset law rule.
yeah.
And we asked for 5 years. So once this initial thing takes into effect, we have 5 years before anything should change.
Well, I wouldn't expect that. I would think there's probably going to be something that's going to take, probably going to be a change in the first 6 months. You know, somebody's going to say, oh, we didn't think about that. So we've got to add that to it. And now I would just, whatever the change might
Property
be.
owner has 120 days to apply for the business. Once the owners also have 120 days to comply with any future changes in the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm nothing sacred in my mind about 120 days, but just some period of time to make the adjustment before, you know, they get put out of business because they can't get it changed in time to rent this coming weekend. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just being quiet so y'all could just go through these I think you ought to say the number of bedrooms on that license.
Yes, me too. I think you have to in order to have some way to enforce how many people are supposed to be there, you know?
I'll make it a little clearer. The SDR license shall include the number of bedrooms.
Good.
Okay.
So that brings us to 2.5.
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually great with 2.5.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that either. I don't have anything somewhere. I wrote something that 210 is the next thing I have any question about.
Did I miss the grandfathered are still required to apply?
Yeah, I don't know if the grandfathers, I got the, well, yeah, you'd have to apply. You can grandfather in even if you're on the interstate, but eventually you're gonna have to apply for a license because you got to run it.
I would probably join that one with 2.2 though. Each SDR property owner, even if grandfathered in at the time of this ordinance, are required to apply.
Okay, but remember the intent of these line items are statements. So I don't want to get too, I'll consider that, but I don't want to get too muddied because each line item statement, they can go through and say, oh, well, we can, you see where I'm going with that?
Yep. Might want to move it up there then. Just next to it. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, can do.
Because when I jumped to number of bedrooms, I went, wait, I already read that thing about applying for a license.
Okay. Oh, I got what you're saying. Yeah, block and stack it different. Okay, got it.
Right.
Okay.
Transfer to sign. Okay, this.
And to me, 5, 6, and 7, I mean, those really all basically say the same thing. And I understand now you're calling them statements. So let's just leave it separate like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
8, that's fine.
And And I guess it's 2.10, the SDR business license will expire 360 days after being issued. And I think what you're doing, as this was written, Alita, we're allowing the city to set it up however they want to, by the year, by the calendar year, by the fiscal year, whatever it is, not necessarily.
Yeah, that was one of the notes that we had early on.
Yeah.
And it was kind of scrambly, but the bottom
Okay.
line is it's annual, or
Yeah.
if they start in the fiscal year in June the 1st or whatever.
Business licenses, I know, are annual basis. You have to report your information by through December 31st,
Mhm.
like at December 31st, and then apply for your renewal. So it's calendar year, but you don't receive your new license till sometime in January.
Yeah. All right.
So as that statement stands, right?
Yeah, you can just leave it. They'll
Okay.
deal
I
that.
figured.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in 211, if we're ready to move on, let's see, the FDR business license could be revoked upon determination of 3 violations of this short-term rental ordinance or law of general applications.
The short-term owners have included.
Yeah, I'm just replacing the word any with this short-term rental STR ordinance, you see?
Oh, okay, you're specifying, that makes sense.
Yeah. Reference topics 10, okay, that's all I had there. In 2. There's 2.10s. Okay, I got you. At least on this one I have. So I guess it's 2. What do I want to say? 12 now, I guess. It starts with the STR owners to have clearly defined pathway to appeal to the city if their business license is revoked. I actually think we should replace if their business license is, we should change it to clearly defined pathway to appeal to the city, any violation, not just waiting until they get 3 strikes, but each and every violation, somebody ought to be able to, if they want to, appeal that verdict. You know what I mean?
Lord, they'll, okay, but
That one's going to be hard, Earl. It will
that's
be
really
really hard.
gonna be hard. Yeah.
Why is that an issue? I mean, wouldn't,
There'll be people complaining all the time, and maybe not, but let's say trash, for example.
Yeah.
And the neighbors complain about trash. Then they go in, the city inspector or whoever takes photographs of it, and then they'll send you a bill, the owner a bill to clean it up.
Yeah.
That's and then that, I think Chris said they log in all those complaints through some group over there in the city, don't they, Chris?
They do. It's a combination of 311, and then it goes to, when it goes to enforcement or a inspector, a specific inspector, it gets recorded and documented in it's actually called the Citizen Self-Service Portal.
Okay.
But
Hey, Chris, in that, is there a way for a person to appeal online?
I don't think that it happens online, and I'm not positive of this. I just know that there was an incident that happened near me because I complained a lot, and the person, they got the notice that they were going to demolish the building that was on there. And however, I think they get a certified letter or something. They ended up appealing it, which then, of course, drags out the whole process. It's got to go to legal, and a lot of different things happen there. So I don't know what they do for that step because I didn't participate. I just know that it drug out longer. And then they basically had already approved it for demolition. So once the appeal time went by and nothing had happened, they just did it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell you what I was thinking on this particular one, this 2.12, and that is, the business, the owner of the STR, this is his business that he's working, and now he's accumulated X number of, 3 violations, and now I don't know how long it is until, once you get 3 violations, until you can no longer do business. So if he had had the opportunity along, assuming he didn't get all three in one night, but had them, it happened over several weeks, if not several months, he could have been appealing these things long before it came
yes.
down to the point where he's out of business. You know what I mean?
You do have the opportunity to appeal when you get a
When you get a
municipal offense ticket. Okay,
Yeah.
you do get it
All right.
because that comes to you as a property owner. It's like we own a property that we weren't living in and got a notice about grass. So
Right.
you had X number of days to cut the grass.
Okay.
Okay. Or
So the way this is written then is the SD owner is to have a clearly defined path to appeal to the city, you know, if their business license, it's not just when their business license is revoked. That was what I was concerned about, but along the way, whenever they receive a notice of a violation, you know what I mean?
that's correct.
Okay, good.
Well, they
And-
have a notice, they have an opportunity to appeal every time they have a notice of the violation.
Okay,
Right.
good. Yeah.
But when you get, and see, the more y'all talk about this, it seems like there should be a benchmark. If you get 3 strikes within a 3-year period, I don't know how long they keep their records on these appeals, but there seems to be, if you get so many, like if I got 3 strikes over a 10-year period, that's really not fair.
Right.
To, you know, but if I got 3 strikes within a year, there's
Yes.
a problem.
And a
So-
year is the number that I have in mind for that. Yep, but that's fine. But anyway, the wording of that particular 2.12 is, I'd like for it not to be just to when the license is revoked, but whenever they have a violation reported, you know.
Yeah, but they've already got that pathway when the violation's reported. They've already got that pathway to
Then
appeal.
why are we putting this in here then?
Because
Yeah.
when your license is revoked, that's totally different than a violation of not mowing your grass. I look at it.
But I
totally
mean,
different.
they should have a clear pathway to appeal any violation, right? What if it's wrong? What if they got the wrong address?
Okay.
Can
So
be
the
cleared
other
up.
part,
Yeah.
I'm looking at, I think it's Louisville's STR, and it says if the property is subject to 2 or more substantiated civil and or criminal complaints within a 12-month period, and then it goes on, blah, blah, you do blah, 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 blah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
it does define, you know, a criminal complaint includes, but not limited to drug activity, theft, criminal mischief.
Where's that, Margot?
well, that's in Louisville. I got
Oh.
an idea. Let's just highlight this in yellow
Mhm.
Okay,
and let the group talk about it.
Yeah.
okay.
That'd be cool. That'd be good.
Yay. Okay.
I think that we can probably find from other cities something to put in here, and maybe just make a note, check other cities.
Okay. And if you'll come up with any suggestions, just let's email it to all of us so we can
Okay.
get it up. Because we might get pushback on a lot of this, but I think our mission was just to give y'all some words to go gin up this requirement.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
We
let's do
are.
it.
Okay, are we on taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
This is what the city likes.
Now, ladies, just to let you know, we are 1 hour into our into our generally scheduled 1 hour meeting. And we've got a long way to go.
Oh
So
my God.
how do we want to handle this? I don't want to keep anybody longer than they can afford to spend on this for today. You know what I mean? Personally, I'm fine with going longer if other folks are able to do that. Chris, Margot, how do you feel about spending another 30 minutes?
I'm good for another 30 minutes.
Are you?
I can do
Is that-
30 minutes, but then I'm out.
Okay,
Okay.
well, would you rather, there's nothing sacred about 30 minutes, so why don't we stop here? Can we, is there a good time when we can get back together before Thursday of next week and work through what we have left on this thing so that I'd like to, as I mentioned to Alita and Margot a little earlier, I'd like to be able to turn this over to everyone else in our group with at least a 24-hour or more, at least a 24-hour heads up so they can read through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we need to get some of these edits in. Can we meet in person?
That might be harder than doing it this way, don't you think?
Oh, okay.
I would guess. So
Can we just meet the next 30 minutes and then decide that we have to meet again and set up another call?
oh, well, okay.
Or not?
You think 30 minutes is time enough to work through this? Okay.
Yeah, taxes doesn't look too hard, and neither does zoning, because we don't
Oh.
even know about zoning until we get back with the bigger group.
That's correct.
Remember that? We said put zoning on the shelf until we get back to the bigger group.
That's right. Okay, well, hey, I'm game to plow on through. Okay, so we should be at 3.0 now, right? Oh,
With
well,
tax-
at 2 point, whatever it is, 13, I guess, the 5-year ordinance, which the sunset clause, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah,
fine.
okay. All right. Let's go on with taxes then, because the taxes committee is to research other cities and websites. Y'all have any comments to add on taxes?
It's
No.
that right there. It's really not the, I mean, you said it all, the amount of the business license fee. You saw Orange Beach was $500. They really want to make sure they get that money.
Mhm.
The new long-term rental thing is only $15, I think.
Outrageous.
Yes. I think that it needs to be, I'm just going to say to even deal with processing and that online stuff, I think it needs to be at least between 75 and 100. That's me.
Don't
Okay.
you get into a position of authority then, Chris, you hear me?
Okay. That's just me. And other, it does vary. It goes from way low to up, but how every other business license works is it is a percent of your gross receipts. Okay. So if you were only going to rent it one time and your license was $75 for a whole year, you may say, I'm not even going to mess with that.
Mhm.
Okay. But because you got people who have to deal with, processing said license and application and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
it needs to be worth the time for both the person who's got to gather the information and for the city to actually do the step of processing the license. So
Mhm.
75 to 100, I think is a fair number for once a year,
Mhm.
and then the part about collecting and paying the appropriate fees and taxes, they're going to get advised as soon as they apply for their license, what those taxes and fees are going to be.
Agreed. Let's go with that.
Yep.
So
That's a good educated guess. Okay.
that's right.
Okay. All right. And that's it. That's it on 3.
All right,
Good.
4.
And on 4,
Mhm.
we talked about zoning was going to be pushed into the bigger group when we got together. So
That's good. Okay.
number
Where's-
5,
Okay.
is there any comments on 4?
No, ma'am. No, not really. Not at this time.
Okay.
No.
U.S. The requirements in Chapter 64, the following statements could be used to establish. See, I was looking at number 5 is almost a ta-da. Here's the next bunch of stuff that we could put in this ordinance. Topics 6 through 11.
Okay. Right. Good.
So I pulled the bedroom stuff. Y'all read the intent statement first at 6.0. Do y'all have 6.0?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't
And
have any
Chris,
issues with that.
Yeah, we just want to say what the intent is. I pulled this 6.1 from Orange Beach, but I didn't ever envision us having, so many bedrooms as some of those houses over there.
Yeah.
This may sound a little corny, but 6.1 is I don't know. I guess I have a little issue. Do we really need to enter a chart for multiplication by 2? We have 1 bedroom, 1 times 2 is.
Well, honey, they extended theirs all out to 5 and 10.
Yeah, I know. But I think
You want to stop at 2 and 4, or delete 3 and 4?
now the question I had in this also, Alita, is the asterisk plus 2 children at age 14 or under. Is that, we have a 4-bedroom house with 8 people allowed and only 2 more children, or is that 2 more children for each bedroom? You know what I mean?
Yeah, total overnight occupants. If it's 2, then I gathered it was plus 2 more kids. Or if it was 4 occupants, you could plus up 2. Or 6 occupants, you could plus up 2. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was per bedroom or just,
It's total
just-
overnight occupants.
yeah.
And it would be 2 plus
Total
2 more
overnight.
kids under 14.
Huh.
Or total
Okay.
overnight was 4.
All right. Okay, I guess that's.
Let's go back
fine.
and look at, let's highlight that one
Mhm.
and talk about that a little bit more and get some more information, because there's a number of ways, and just in my opinion, you can.
Okay, so 6.1 needs some work. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Just want to be clear for everybody involved. Yeah.
I know we
Okay.
all speak English, but different. Now 7 with parking.
Yeah.
I'll read through that.
Well, first of all, the intent of establishing parking requirements to ensure that SDR guests do not over park along the streets in the driveways. That's exactly where I want them to park. You know what I mean? Or on land yard not identified for parking. I didn't, it says we don't want them to over park along the streets. That I agree with, certainly. You see what I mean?
So strike in driveways.
Yes, ma'am. I think so. And I don't know that, it's a pain in my subdivision, people parking on the yards. I hate it, you know what I mean? But I don't really have any means of enforcing it. It's their property. They can do what they want, you know what I mean? If the homeowners association says no, then you've got some leverage. But I'm not sure if somebody has an SDR in a subdivision without a homeowners association and they allow people to park on their yard, I don't know that we really have any leverage to say no,
So we can strike. So your suggestion is to put a period at streets and then
Yes, ma'am.
strike the other stuff.
Yeah, I think that rest of it, well, the driveways isn't an issue with me, but the rest of it is just, it's the owner's call and it's up to him or her to enforce that one however they want to, you know what I mean?
Does anybody have any problems with that?
And I don't have a problem with it. I don't like it, but still, again, it's not, I don't
I know.
feel like we gotta, we gotta,
So park it on the streets. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I look at like Oakley Garden District, if people are starting to park on the grass and all on the streets because they have an oversized dually truck or whatever it might be, I just think we have to be careful with this one because we still have to have good consideration of the neighbors and the different districts. And again, that's just my opinion, but I think we be, very focused on this one.
So what are you thinking, Margot, that this is even with the, along the streets is gonna be problems in some neighborhoods?
I would think so. I mean, if you drive through, like I just look at all of the,
Yeah.
where most of the STRs are going to be located,
Right.
they're in historic communities of our city. And that's where, all of our out of town guests are going. And, if I was a neighbor, I wouldn't have a problem with an STR, but all of a sudden, if everyone's parking on the street, then I'm going to have a problem with that. Then because you run into potential garbage collection. I mean, I think there's I feel heartburn with that.
So how should the intent to establish, what would your intent to establish parking requirements be? Or is there no reason to establish parking requirements?
I think you need to have parking requirements, and I think that it has to be established in an established area on the property. I would say 99.9% of the homes have a driveway. So you can't show up with 5 cars and just park them where you want. You've got to be able to say, you're not allowed to have this many occupants, and this is the maximum amount of cars that you can have for overnight people staying in this STR.
So then let's just go back to the intent of why we're talking about parking. So the intent for establishing parking requirements is to ensure that STR guests do not overpark.
Period.
Okay. And then parking requirements could align with the city code, and that's a real general lazy catch-all statement.
Yes.
Parking requirements could be restricted to the number of bedrooms and guests allowed in the STR.
Yep.
Could be, but I don't think we could ever enforce that.
I don't think so either.
It would take the neighbors to enforce that.
Right.
So should we just leave it at do not overpark and align with the city code?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would end up being, the city code will end up being the default period. So the do not overpark doesn't even mean
Well, I
anything
think
at
we're
that
gonna have to
point.
have something about parking, just like attention.
Yes.
We
I
don't
agree.
want all the Senior Bowl traffic down one house.
Yeah, that's correct.
How about recreational vehicles and boats and trailers are not allowed to park?
Yeah, I see.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't like that idea either. I at that point, I'd rather defer to the city code, but because
But that was
somebody
in some of our comments, though. I don't want to.
yes, that's right. I saw it in there, but I think when we talked about it last time, then somebody might be traveling cross country and decide to, stay longer in Mobile, Alabama, and then they're traveling by RV and they park it in the yard. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they're down here and they're going to rent a piece of property for 2 weeks, and they're going to go fishing down there, off Gulf Shores, and they have a boat trailer, so I think I don't think we can tell them no,
Okay, somebody summarize parking requirement 7.0. Do we?
I think that it needs to be, our intent is to make sure that the owner slash person who's renting it to be required to, as part of their business license application, they should actually have to say this number of on-site parking spaces are available.
Right.
That's
Okay.
really good. Yeah, because that goes up to the business license and the number of bedrooms and also the number of parking spaces.
Right. So one of the things that I did, Alita, was when I looked at your list, which is all bullet points, and I'm with you on that. But to me, if we have the one grouping that is business license application requirements, okay, because us telling them what to do, that should be, they tell the city, this is how many on-site parking spaces I have. And even if it's in feet.
I agree. I'm looking at another one. It says no additional parking shall be required for short-term rentals. Existing on-site parking spaces shall be made available to short-term renters. I think it's a very succinct, and then you have to disclose that during your application process.
Right.
Okay, so I put number of bedrooms and then also added number of parking spaces under 2.0, the license application process.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Have we addressed the on the street parking? How's that going to shake out? I mean, they're just going to use the street as a place to park vehicles, or is that, or how? I'm not sure how we.
Let's keep 7.0 parking requirements in there, and the intent is to establish that guests or managers SCR do not overpark, and that's a big.
That's the intent, right? That's
and the then we can say refer to application process when we get those numbers all lined up.
Okay. So if I'm bringing my truck and a boat and a trailer, and that this rental says it's got 2 parking spaces, that means I use them with the truck and the trailer.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so no, I really shouldn't be able to also park on the street, but you could. I mean, because as a homeowner, you could. But
you could.
But if you ask if the part of their business license, they said this is how many spaces that they are allowing for, the renter, then that's what they're allowing. And if they do more than that, then that could be a strike. But
yeah, okay.
Okay.
The parking is still a consideration, but business license is real important. Okay,
Right.
got that.
All right.
Okay, are we messed
more-
up? Go ahead.
Sorry, just one more thing I wanted to add. Do we want to put anything in there about commercial vehicles?
a tractor trailer.
Well, and the reason
Yeah,
the reason why I say this is, again, after Sally, there were a lot of contractors in our area from out of state, and they brought their RVs, they brought their dump trucks, they brought all of their commercial equipment, and they rented Airbnb, VRBO, because there's no housing available to put their workers.
Right.
That creates, and that's where I kind of have the heartburn about the RVs, the boats, and then commercial vehicles. Because now,
commercial vehicles with more, 2 axles or more. Isn't that how you would talk about commercial vehicles with relative to axles?
yes, yeah, that's a great way of saying it.
So we'll
And
put that in.
tags. Usually tags tell you if they're commercial also.
Well, you can do an F-150 in Louisiana and have a commercial license, maybe the axles, because I think that's what y'all can. Okay, I think our 30 minutes are up, right?
Well,
Sure.
technically 10 more minutes, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay, 10 more minutes. Because you know what I'm thinking? Tonight, I mean, while all this is still fresh, I'm going to regen all of this up where we've gotten so far.
Thank you.
So that y'all can look at it clean again.
Okay.
And then when we get back together, we'll go through it because we only have a couple more paragraphs. Is that okay with y'all? In other words, I'll revise what we're doing so we keep our notes fresh, okay?
Did we answer Margot's inquiry about commercial vehicles?
Yeah, I think 7 point whatever is going to be no commercial vehicles more than 2 axles can be parked at an SUV, an STR.
Yeah.
Let's just throw something in there and let our overall group talk the language.
Okay, because my initial response is, let's just get the number of parking places straight, and if they want to put one commercial vehicle in there and everybody else parks a mile away, that's their option. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I figured if somebody had a truck and a boat, that boat's going to be gone probably by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they may not have to worry about parking their boat.
There you go. I have one more question, and I know we've had lengthy discussions about it, and it comes back to the number of days, the number of consecutive days to rent a short-term rental. I'm going to say that the attorney had said that that ship had sailed, it's, no more than 180 days.
That's right.
So that's what, 6 months, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
So in the state of Alabama, I don't know the answer to this. If I live in a residence for more than 30 days, 30 consecutive days, am I considered a resident of Alabama?
Oh, no.
And I know that I keep bringing this up, but a short-term rental is short, under 30 days. And I think when the attorney talks about the long-term and the short-term, look at a long-term, when I look at renting a place for 6 months, I'm essentially leasing it. I'm renting it.
Right.
The intention of a short-term rental. And Andrew had heartburn about it, saying, well, we would go out of business.
Well, if you look at paragraph 4.1 into the zoning, I talked to my cousin. She just moved here from Georgia, and she bought over in some new subdivision in Spanish Fort or wherever, Daphne. And I asked her about her homeowners association, and she said the way they worded it in the homeowners association is that, and you'll see it in 4.1, leases to disallow rental leases that are less than 180 consecutive days. That's, she said, how her homeowners association is written. And I recall what the lawyer said, there was the break point in the city, or maybe it's industry, 181 days, that would go into a long-term lease. Anything less than 180 days is considered a short-term lease. I don't know where they pull that number from. I don't know if there's politics behind that number, but I agree with you. 3 days is enough for everybody to come in.
What's your concern about the residency, Margot?
Well,
Yeah.
well, I'm concerned about the residency and, but then also, I mean, I know from a hotel perspective, if you stay in a hotel for 30 days or less, then you pay your daily taxes, your lodging taxes.
Right.
When you hit the 31st day, you become tax exempt.
No kidding.
So, and that's consistent. You can't just say, I spent the last, I spent 30 days over the last, 6 months of the year at your hotel. It's consecutive day after day after day after day.
Huh.
Very interesting. You bring
So
that on more talk. Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's, I don't know. I still have heartburn about that. And I need to talk to Andrew and probably understand his perspective more when he said we would struggle with our business if we couldn't rent it for more than, for less than 180 days or more than 100, less than 180 days. But
But you bring in more information. I know it's not, STRs are different than lodging, but you do bring in a nuance there about the lodging tax, about taxes in general. Interesting.
My guess, Margot, just is probably Andrew was thinking we were considering restricting 180 days per year for him to
Right.
rent. You see what
Yeah.
I mean? Now then I could understand how that would cramp his business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I would not support that whatsoever.
Right. But I don't know any reason. But I don't know any reason why it would bother him otherwise. You know what I mean? So, but as far as whether or not the tax exempt, if somebody's renting a short-term rental for 60 days, he or she becomes tax exempt somewhere in the process if they
Maybe
follow
we
the
should
same
put
rules
a
we do.
maybe we should put a statement in there to highlight the point of just what Margot said. When you're in a hotel for 31 days or more, you become tax exempt.
Let's
I
raise
don't
the
think that'll
question.
be, I don't think that'll be the case with this though.
But
I
if
don't
we
know why.
put a
I don't know why it
statement,
wouldn't, honestly. But I'm sure that guy Chris will. Why don't I do that? Why don't I just call him and I'll try and find out before we meet again. See what the story
yeah,
is. 'Cause
okay.
He's a good enough guy. He'll probably give me some answer. I hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It could be
definitely.
a good stumbling block.
Yeah. Because I would have a feeling that some of the long-term stay hotels, and there are a number of them in the city and in the county
Right.
that rely on long-term stay business, like
Yeah, yeah.
or gas or, whatever folks that are coming in.
Mhm.
So I have a feeling that I don't know if anyone would even be aware that we're working on this ordinance anyway, but
Mhm.
if I was a manager of a long-term stay hotel
Mhm.
and I'm losing business to short-term, quote unquote, short-term rental Airbnb because they're renting for long-term stays, that's
Competing interest. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, but you would. Okay.
I like that.
But you wouldn't
think
be
we ought to put a
losing
sentence
unless
in there.
they got the tax exemption, right? Unless short-term rentals got the tax exemption.
right. But usually like like a short-term rental owner might say, oh, if you want to rent it for 179 days, here, do it $30 a day, whereas a hotel would say it's probably more like 60 or 65. I mean, there's some competing factors that are in there.
All right.
Just again, I just bring this up because I just want everyone to kind of know all the different angles. I'm not trying to sway anyone one way or the other. I think it's just good dialogue to have overall.
Okay.
Well, with that said, should we put a comment in there right near this 180 and 4.0 in the zoning?
You certainly may, and then as I said, I'll touch base with
Or the
attorney
taxes?
Chris and see if
Maybe
that.
it should go up in the taxes and the fees in paragraph 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
It is now 28 minutes after the hour, so
okay.
perhaps it's time to
Sorry about that.
call a job. No, that's quite all right. That's fine. Yep.
Well, this was fun.
So we still have more to go. What can we do to catch up to go to our? I'd like to do another hour sometime. Is that at all possible? Today is Saturday. How about can anybody tell if they would be available the same time on Tuesday? How's that? How about that?
Well, isn't No, next Tuesday, we don't meet next Tuesday. It's the 29th, right?
Right.
The following
Right.
with our group.
Right. I honestly have a tough time with Tuesday, but if everybody else wants to still meet, that's fine.
No, I can meet most anytime.
I have a 3 o'clock on next week, Tuesday.
3
So if
o'clock.
it was at 2, I just
Could
have
it
to
be at
duck out.
1? Could it be at 1?
I could do 1.
I could do one.
Oh,
Can
wait,
you?
wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong day. Let me go on the right day. I was right though, 3 o'clock on Tuesday.
Miss Lana.
Okay, I'm
I
on the right
don't
day.
think we can do
No, I don't either.
one
I'm
because the
sorry.
finance committee meeting is,
Okay.
Oh,
the
yeah.
finance committee is meeting at 1.
Oh, okay.
On the 27th.
What about Monday afternoon?
Lana, I have another question. I mean, is this, I don't want to get somebody in trouble, especially me, about this 7 days for public meetings.
yeah.
I don't even know if this one was announced. Is that?
It
that-
was
was.
announced. It
It was.
was.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's no way
Oh.
between now and the next meeting that we could meet
No.
quite legally. So,
Well, we're pushing.
Great point.
We're pushing pretty good because we don't have to get finished with this until June the 30th.
yeah, okay.
So we might have to push back that big joint meeting that's
All right.
coming up.
So if you don't mind, Alita, would you just go ahead and, do the
Yeah, I'm gonna
massaging of this document and
Yeah.
get it to me, and I'll send it to everybody for our scheduled meeting on Thursday next week. And then we'll try and come back to I'm not sure how we're going to address it during that meeting. We'll get a little clumsy with the whole group, I think, but
Yeah, I think so too.
we'll perhaps we'll review with the group everything that we've done thus far, and then have this smaller group meet again and try and massage it there.
Well, can we just keep our appointment on the city schedule for next week, but
Yeah.
just notify the overall group that this smaller breakout group is working some further details. In other
Yes.
words, just inform them, hey, we're not going to meet. Our smaller group is still working on the list.
Yeah, that's,
Oh,
and just push back the bigger
so
group
well,
another week.
I tell you what, it probably doesn't matter now that I think about it, because we need to meet next week and start talking about these zoning issues. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, but
that's gonna be
there's still a
job
lot
one.
more to go with this and the
Right.
zoning. I
Yeah.
see your point, but still, we still are pushing way farther ahead. Because June 30th is the date. We have all of May and all of June to talk zoning.
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
rather get these nickel and dime kind of things done.
Mhm. Yeah, so let's just incorporate what we talked about today into the document. I'll get it to the people, to everybody to read. But
Okay.
I'm sure the next hour that we meet on Thursday is going to be dedicated almost completely to the zoning issue. So
Okay,
we
okay.
probably won't even
All
get
right,
to
and
that.
then we can meet after zoning and take care of the
Yes.
rest of the issues.
Exactly right.
Let's just focus on zoning. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
right.
Chris.
Okay.
Alita, thank you for
Margot,
putting this
Alita,
together.
of course.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you,
I
Alita.
enjoyed working with y'all.